You've probably seen the AGV K6 S hyped up as one of the lightest premium helmets you can buy. The type of helmet that promises to do it all between commuting and touring, canyon carving, and maybe even the occasional track day. But the question is, when you actually ride in this helmet, does it make your life better, or do you find yourself sweating, stuck with visor quirks, and sitting there thinking to yourself, could your $600 have been spent in a better place? I'm Chaseontwowheels, and today we're gonna find that out. Welcome to Moto Gear Show. Alright, so guys, let's start this thing off with an overview. So the AGV K6 S is gonna come in at around a $600 price point for a base colorway, and the price can increase up to around $699 if you guys are wanting another graphic. Now, this thing is designed to be AGV's, what do they call it? All roads, all riding styles helmet. So they've literally designed this thing to just be kind of good at everything. Now, the shell is going to be a carbon aramid composite, and one of its big selling points is that it is one of the lightest helmets in this premium class. Now, on paper, a size medium is going to be weighing around 2.8 to 3 pounds, which is around 1255 grams to 1365 grams. Now, we're going to do a comparison in a second, and as you guys are going to see, that thing is way lighter than all of its competitors. The helmet's also available in 4 different shell sizes, so that way the size of the helmet should match your head pretty accurately. Now, certification-wise, it's got ECE 2206, and for my European guys, this thing scored 5 stars on the Sharp rating, which is about as good as you can get. Now, as far as the visor goes, you're looking at a 190-degree field of view horizontally with an 85-degree vertical field of view, and it's coming with a pin lock insert when you order the helmet. Here's some other features that are noteworthy as well. Emergency quick release cheek pads, glasses-friendly channels inside the helmet liner, you got multiple intake and exhaust vents, and of course that removable moisture wicking liner. Now, as far as competition goes, here's what the K6 S is stacked up against in its price and weight class. First up, we have the Shoei RF 1400, which is a helmet we've actually reviewed here. It's coming in around $580, and it weighs 3.6 pounds or 1630 grams. Now, it's going to be heavier than the AGV, but Shoei's aerodynamics are excellent and ventilation is strong. Next up, we got the Arai Regent X. It's going to come in around $680 and weighs 3.5 pounds, 1600 grams. Arai leans into that plush comfort and that top tier build quality. Ventilation is going to be noticeably better than the K6 S. Next up, we have the Scorpion EXO ST1400. Price-wise, we're looking at 430 pounds with a weight of 3.3 pounds, which is 1500 grams. This is gonna be your budget-friendly option with decent ventilation, good features, but not quite as premium in the build quality as the AGV, Shoei, or the Arai. Next up, we have the HJC ARFA 71. Price-wise, you're looking at around $500 to $550, and it's going to be weighing 3.5 pounds or 1540 grams. This is going to be a great option for my sport touring guys, including a drop-down sun visor, and it's generally praised for being comfortable and having good airflow. And then of course we have the AGV K6 S, price-wise $600 to $699, weight 2.8 to 3 pounds or 1255 to 1365. It's the lightest in the group on paper, but can feel heavier in practice because of the bobbling on the highway speeds. We'll talk about that more in a second. So as you guys can see, compared to its competition, the K6 S kind of looks like the lightweight champ, but when it comes to real world usability with the visor and the airflow, I think it's not really getting as far as the spec sheet story is telling us. And also guys, before we get too far into this review, I want to give a shout out to the sponsor of this video, which is Cardo. They are my go-to for Bluetooth communicators on helmets. I literally could not use anything else. They have a phenomenal mesh network that connects you with all your buddies. Auto heals the group if you guys get separated or something like that. The music quality is absolutely S tier. I literally could not ride without my Cardo, and I got you guys 10% off. Just use C2W Cardo at checkout. I've got you guys a link in the description. Thank you, Cardo, for being the most fantastic product like you on the market and for sponsoring the channel. All right, let's get back to the review. Now guys, when it comes to fit and comfort, I was super happy with the K6 S when I first put it on. It was almost like I shoved my head into like a pile of pillows. The internal padding is really plushy and really soft and doesn't take really any sort of like break-in period. It's just comfortable from the get-go. Now, What I will note is when I did that, I was inside of my air-conditioned garage and everything was great. Upon getting in the helmet and going for rides out in this really hot Georgia heat, I started noticing the negative side effect of that padding, and I noticed my face just getting really warm and kind of like holding the heat in is what the padding seemed to do. So this is definitely one of those helmets that, at least in my personal opinion, I started getting really warm wearing this helmet, so I almost always had to ride with my visor open or I was gonna be sweating bullets. Now, as far as the shape of that internal padding, I kind of noticed it was a little strange. I could feel the padding go up to about right here, whereas a lot of padding will come up this far. So it's almost like the side pieces don't come up as far as other paddings. I'm not sure if that's a thing or not, or just how the helmet sat on my head, but I noticed a little weirdness there. It wasn't bad, it was just different from other helmets I've been testing. Now, one more thing I want to touch on inside of this fit and comfort section is how comfortable the helmet is when you wear glasses. Now, I don't have glasses, I don't wear glasses, but I do have a pair of sunglasses that I've been wearing that have really thin arms. Those didn't have any issues with putting them on with my helmet because they're basically nothing there on the sides. But I do think if you're somebody that has maybe thicker framed glasses, there is a decent amount of pressure here, so I don't think it's going to be very comfortable, at least initially. If you use thicker glasses, it might take some breaking in of that padding. I was surprised at how tight it kind of held in that area. That being said, head shapes are crazy different, so if you guys can, find a place that you can go fit one of these helmets on and then put your glasses on then to really know if this is going to work for you or not. Next up, let's talk about wind and stability, because this is the part of this video that I'm kind of confused about, honestly. You guys heard the first part of the video. This helmet actually is lighter than all of the helmets it competes with, but what I noticed while riding this helmet is that even though the helmet is mathematically lighter than all of the other helmets that it's compared with, I found myself getting tired riding in this helmet. After riding literally hundreds of miles in this helmet, I'm starting to realize that it's not necessarily the weight of the helmet that's tiring my neck, it's the bobbling that happens while wearing the helmet. The helmet doesn't really seem like it would bobble around, there's nothing that really like grabs air on it, but I just noticed it's not quite as stable as other helmets that I've tested, and that bobbling constantly really starts getting me tired while riding in this helmet. Didn't really expect that. Next up, we got to talk about the visor, and things are going to get very mixed in this section, so buckle up. First off, we're going to talk about the locking mechanism in the front of the visor. So if you guys see on the front of the helmet, there's a button right under the front middle of the visor. If you press that button in, the visor will open up, or at least it should. I have had a lot of issues with this front button. When I first got the helmet, I can literally remember filming the video of Instagram Riders Are a Joke. I'll have it linked in the description down below. It features the K6 S. When we were out filming that video, I remember one of the times I was riding with the K6 and I pushed the button and the visor would not open. I've been riding for a long time. Not many times have I felt panicked inside of a helmet as I did in that moment. It was just something about not being able to open a visor that was freaking me out. Now, I don't know if it was just messed up that night or what, but it has gotten better since, but I'm still running into an entirely different problem now. So the way I want the helmet to work is when I lock it shut and I get that good satisfying click and I know it's shut, cool, visor's not gonna go anywhere. I love that part. But when I want it to open, I want to press that button and pull up on the visor and I want it to open. And that is not what happens 95% of the time. When I press that button and I lift up, the visor now goes into a crack position and then it's locked there. I then have to, once it's cracked, I have to press the button again and I have to open the helmet all the way up. That happens almost 95% of the time. I've looked at the little mechanism on the front of the visor. There's no detents or anything weird with that, so I don't know why the visor's not just opening up every time. Literally maybe 5% of the time. I press the button and I can open the visor all the way up. I know I'm making that seem like a really big deal, but I have had so many times where I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I literally press the button. I look at it as a two-step process. It's click in, crack, click in, open all the way. The first couple times I was learning that this visor wants to be open like that, it was very distracting trying to just fiddle with this area in the front of my visor. And anytime something's distracting you from riding a motorcycle, you are not in a good spot. So that part of the helmet has been super frustrating for me. Okay, so we got the bad part of the visor out of the way. Now let's move to the sides of the visor. I think most of you guys understand when you're swapping visors on and off, most of the mechanism stuff is always on the helmet, and that's where the stuff is that you pop the visor onto. AGV's done something different with this visor though. The system on the helmet is kind of just like the plate, and then the little latch is actually part of the visor itself, which I guess is probably gonna make the visors more expensive. It's got like a little metal lever and everything. And from what I've noticed, it's super simple to get lined up and get locked onto there. And once it's locked on, it feels really secure. I've had other helmets where I felt like I locked everything in place and then you could pull on it and then it would actually pop off. So I actually really like the side mechanisms. The only thing I'm not a huge fan of is the actuation of that lever. It's got this very tiny little slit and I had to get my fingernail in there to pull it down. But the amount of friction it takes to pull down is a lot. So you almost feel like you're gonna bend your fingernail trying to pull it down. So I wish that was a little more smooth, a little more easier to pull down, but I do appreciate that when it gets locked on there, it's locked on there. Also, as far as the visor itself, seems really nice quality and no issues with that. And I do really love that the pin lock is included. I'm a big pin lock user, so anytime a helmet's gonna come with pin lock, I'm a big fan of that. Also, a couple more things about the visor that I wish were improved in future models. First up, I wish the friction on the mechanism was a little more to open and shut the visor. As I told you guys, this helmet kind of runs hot on my head, so I'm always riding with the visor open, and I noticed that just a little bit of wind, probably 35 miles an hour and up, is enough wind to make the visor, when cracked open up about right here, slam shut on itself. It's not as bad as the Pista. The Pista's terrible at it. At least this has detents, but it's still not a strong enough mechanism to not make it shut in the wind. Also, when I had the visor open, I did notice that it whistles pretty bad. So I would almost guarantee you're gonna need earplugs if you don't wanna hear a whistling visor all the time. One more little thing about the visor and I'll be done with it, but while riding with the visor open, I also noticed that the wind would really make the visor like wiggle around and vibrate. I don't think the quality of the visor is bad. I don't think the quality of the mechanisms on the side is bad, but that was really distracting a lot of time because I was finding myself riding, I'd be looking up and my visor would just be doing this. So that was a kind of strange little quirk. I don't really know how you fix that, but maybe it's something to look into. Next up, guys, let's talk about ventilation, and I want to start off with the actual tabs that open and close the vents. I was super happy with the very tactile click that I'm getting on every single vent I used on this helmet. Even with the gloves on, opening and closing was very noticeable. I could tell when they were open and when they were closed, and I just love the feeling of the vents. It was a very nice build quality situation with this helmet. The problem I have with the ventilation is how much air is actually flowing when you have the vents opened. So I tested this helmet out with the visor shut all the way and all the vents open, and with this Georgia heat, it was very hard to do that. I've used this helmet for many first rides. I think we shot like 3 first rides with this helmet. And on a first ride, audio is my most important thing, so I had the visor shut and all of the vents closed because I want the best audio possible, and it was tough. Like, between the lack of airflow and that really fluffy padding that keeps a lot of heat in, it got warm. But even when I'm not recording, when I'm riding with this helmet, I almost cannot ride without the visor all the way open because I need as much airflow as possible. I've tried in like dusty scenarios closing the visor completely and just opening all of the vents to see how much airflow I can get and if that's enough, and it is nowhere close. I need so much more air flowing into my face and I just can't do it with only the vents. Gotta have that shield open. Next up, let's talk about visibility. You guys know earlier in the video we were talking about 190-degree horizontal field of view and 85 vertical. Overall, with riding this thing around town and stuff like that, I haven't really had any problems, and nothing's really popped out of like, I wish I had more of this or more of that. I did do a direct visibility comparison with my Shoei RF 1400 and was actually really surprised to see that with my Shoei, I could actually see a good amount more vertically. And if you guys watched that video, I did complain in that video that it had a relatively low amount of vertical field of view. And I was thinking about that because I only noticed a couple things when I was riding an R9, you know, sporty motorcycle with red lights and stuff. And I think it's because I got used to my race helmets, like the KYT KX1, my SuperTech R10. These race helmets have so much vertical field of view. When you go to these like road focused helmets, they almost seem like they don't have a ton, but you know, that's more of like the baseline. Regardless, long story short, the RF 1400 definitely has more field of view vertically. I was kind of surprised by that. But after riding with the K6 S, I don't really have any complaints about the visibility. Alright guys, next up, let's talk about sound inside the helmet. And to do that, we're going to go to our patent pending sound test. And since it's an actual test and you guys see results, you don't need my opinions. Here they are. Next up, let's talk about Bluetooth integration. You guys know I am not riding in a motorcycle helmet without my Cardo setup, so naturally I did get my Cardo set up with the K6 S, and I am very happy with it. As you guys can see, the helmet doesn't have too many lines on it, making it hard for the exterior part of the Cardo to be connected. The only kind of caveat to that is my placement of the Cardo is a little farther back than I normally would because of those little side angles that the sides of the helmet have. So I wish I could mount it a little farther forward, but it's not really a deal breaker at all. The really nice thing that I like about the inside of this helmet is when you pop the padding down from the side, you'll see that the foam actually has a cutout for a speaker. Not only that, but they have a little routing area for the wires as well. So AGV did a great job of putting in something actually in the foam, and you cannot even tell it's there. I will say that the K6 S isn't as loud as something like my Shoei RF 1400. So I don't know if it's because of the thickness of the little ear foam piece with the padding or what, but something is causing the Cardo to not be quite as loud as other helmets that I've tested. But as far as the install process, I was very happy with that. And actually, the K6 S does a really good job of having so much extra space around the neck roll that you can just really hide all the wires. It makes your setup look super clean. So Bluetooth setup is a great and super easy on this helmet. Next up guys, let's talk about motovlogging with the K6 S. So to test this out, I was using my clamp-on motovlogging setup that you guys can see in that video. I'll have it in the description down below. It makes it really easy for me to test lots of helmets in the motovlogging space. But with this helmet, I wouldn't really recommend doing that. I would definitely recommend a more permanent camera solution on the front of your helmet. That clamp and I guess the shape of the front of the K6 S just doesn't really do a good job of holding that clamp on. And I noticed while filming with it, it would just slowly move down. Didn't have any close calls, never almost fell off, but I guess I was just really, looking at it and I could see my camera just like slowly move down. Didn't really love the feeling of that. The good news about it is I guess it's because of that really thick padding, but the microphone audio sounded surprisingly good inside of this helmet, except for when I was on the highway on certain motorcycles. When there's a lot of wind on the top of the helmet, it seems like there's a lot of audio then, like of the wind and stuff like that. but there's other scenarios where the audio sounds really good. So overall, I think it's just a solid middle of the road motovlogging option, but just make sure that you guys are not going to use that helmet clamp setup. I don't want you guys out there motovlogging and you look down and your clamp just falls down the road and you're like, no! Overall, it's not a bad helmet for motovlogging. It's definitely not going to be my first pick though. And with all of that said, let's see how this thing plays out in a chase score. For comfort and fit, I'm giving this thing an 8.5. For ventilation, I'm gonna have to give it a 6.5. Noise level is actually gonna get a 7 out of 10. For visibility, I gotta give it a 5.5. Weight-wise, I gotta give this thing a 9. Comm setups also getting a 9.5. Motovlog setups getting a 7. Features is actually gonna get a 9. For value for money, I'm gonna give it a 7. For durability and build quality, I'm giving this thing a 9. That's gonna give it a total of 78 out of 100. Alrighty guys, that's a chase score of the AGV K6 S, and here at the end of the video, I like giving you guys my final thoughts and kind of just wrap the video up. And you know, generally speaking, if you're in a hotter climate, I might push you away from this helmet because I just got so hot riding in it as long as I didn't have the visor fully open. And if you're in a cooler climate, the helmet will work fine. You know, you don't need a ton of airflow because it's gonna be cooler. But there's been something that's been getting to me with this entire review, and this is the only place I can really mention it. You guys have heard this review. Overall, the helmet seems like a solid middle ground, lighter weight for the premium side of helmets. It's got great build quality. The ventilation's not fantastic. I'm not gonna go through everything, but this helmet is spec-wise and from this review should seem like a pretty good helmet. But I cannot help but feel at the end of this review and every time I go ride in this helmet, something's off. I don't like something. I don't know why. I can't put a word on it, but this is one of the first helmets I've reviewed other than the Pista where I'm like, I don't think I'm gonna be using that helmet anymore. It's not that it's a bad helmet, but like, if I was to compare my Shoei RF1400 and my AGV K6, I'm not exaggerating, there is not a single scenario where I would pick the K6 S over the RF1400. Maybe that's my problem, is I have another helmet that costs very similar and does everything the K6 S does, but way better. And because of that, I don't really see myself using this thing anymore. So that's been nagging at me this whole review. I didn't want to say this until the end of it because I didn't want to like get it in y'all's head before you hear all the stats, but I can't figure it out. But this helmet is super meh to me. You guys do me a favor. In the comments down below, after you've seen this video, especially if you own a K6S, let me know what you guys think about it. Do y'all have a better understanding of what this helmet is or something I got wrong? Let me know in the comments down below, and if you're looking for a helmet, make sure to use our links. That goes to Revzilla. It doesn't cost you guys anything, but it gives us a kickback and really helps me continue doing these helmet reviews for you guys that are fully independent. But yeah, let me know if you guys have got more miles than me. Put some info down there and let's have a conversation down there. I love these videos for being able to have conversations with y'all about these helmets, because at the end of the day, I just want you guys to get the right helmet. And if the K6S is the right helmet for you, then that's freaking awesome. I'm really happy about that. I'm just giving you guys my opinion. And guys, I'm Chaseontwowheels. If you like this video, hit the like button, subscribe if you like motorcycle content, and I'll see you on the next helmet review. What helmet should I review next? Let me know in the comments down below. Later, guys.